Today we're going to brew our first gluten-free beer using the Grainfather Connect. We have the Grainfather Connect app installed on our phone. We also printed out the recipe we're going to be using because we're a little old-fashioned and like to see things on paper. And we're going to be trusting Grainfather's calculations in their program, particularly pertaining to the quart to pound ratio that we talked about in our previous episode. They have it gallon to pound ratio, and we've converted that to be 1.292 quarts per pound, which is greater than what we had calculated the minimum being needed in our last episode. And we're also going to trust their grain absorption rate calculation as well. Although we had done some previous research on that, we're going to see how that compares to what we had blogged previously. We're going to pay particular attention to the pre-boil target volume during the Sparge process and make sure that we do get to the right pre-boil target volume before we start our boil. Lastly, we're going to be brewing in the kitchen today because it's a wonderful 36 degrees outside, and one of the perks of the Grainfather unit is it can be used anywhere, and we're going to be using it indoors today so that the unit doesn't have to compete with the additional coldness of the outdoor elements. As you can see, we're using the modifications to the filter as recommended in the last video. We're also using the stainless steel strainer for the top plate that was recommended in the last video, and in the first video we reviewed the modification we made to the bottom plate. The inside of the Grainfather boiler body has hash marks marking gallons and liters. This is useful when adding the correct amount of water for your strike water and ensuring that you have the right pre-boil volume before you start your boil. Since there are many liters to a gallon, there are more frequent hash marks for the liters, so it may be helpful to convert your math to liters so that you can more accurately determine if you're close to the targeted volume that you wanted to reach. Add the water that will become your strike water to the boiler body without the inner basket. You will add the inner basket afterwards. Now that you've added the strike water, insert the inner basket. Now insert the grain stopper into the overflow tube. You want to do that before you add any grain. While bringing the strike water up to temperature, you may want to occasionally stir the water. We notice the temperature probe is near the bottom of the boiler body and also very close to the heating element. When we did stir the water, we noticed the temperature did drop a few degrees, so it might be worth the extra effort as we are not currently recirculating. When prompted, begin adding the malt a little bit at a time. Make sure the grain stopper is in place. And stir in the malt to make sure that all the malt is properly saturated and that they don't form any dough balls. Once you have added the grain, you can remove the grain stopper and insert the top plate. The top plate goes to the top of the grain bill. It does not compress the grain bill. Next, add the overflow piece. I forget what it's called specifically, and push that all the way down. It will interlock into the upper plate, and then if you'd like to add the mesh screen, do that as well. Add the glass lid. Insert the recirculation hose and attach to the Grainfather. Make sure the valve is open and begin the mash. In all the excitement of brewing with this new equipment, we almost forgot one very important step when brewing gluten-free beer, and that is to add the enzymes. The glass lid is fogged up, but you can see through the center hole that the wort is recirculating. Now that the mash has completed, we will begin the sparge process. Remember to lift the inner basket slowly. Also remember that because we added the mesh screen, we may have restricted the flow rate additionally. So be sure to pull the inner basket out slowly to allow all the wort to flow out of the inner basket. Then begin the sparge. Begin adding the sparge water a little bit at a time. Remember not to add too much water as to go through the overflow tube in the center. Once you achieve your boil, you can begin adding your hops. It is recommended that you use a hop spider or a hops bag to prevent the hops from potentially clogging the filter to the pump. Once the boil has concluded, connect the counterflow wort chiller and begin to cool your wort. You can then pump the wort into your primary fermentation tank and begin fermentation. Thank you for watching today. We are going to have a follow-up video to talk about some things that went well, some things that didn't go as well as perhaps planned, and kind of our thoughts about brewing on this system for the first time. Some of it just may very well be that this was our first experience with this system and that we need to brew some more. So thank you again. I'm Brian with glutenfreehomebrewing.com.